Hi, I'm Dylan Blaylock with Clackamas County's Public and Government Affairs Department, and I'm here with Clackamas County Commissioner Sonia Fischer and Clackamas County Domestic Violence Systems Coordinator Sarah Van Dyke. And today we're here to talk about how on January 1st, strangulation during an act of domestic violence became a felony rather than a misdemeanor. This is part of a public awareness campaign that we're doing. There's a series of Facebook Live videos we'll bring to you over the next couple weeks. So Sarah, let's start with you.
Sure.
You've been coordinating the changes, you've been coordinating what the county is going to be doing since the law passed.
Mm-hmm.
What are the specifics of the law and sort of what defines domestic violence and kind of the acts that the law covers?
Okay, so I'll start with defining domestic violence. So domestic violence is a pattern of coercive behavior used to control another person in an intimate relationship. So we'll start with the definition. The law changed prior to January 1st. The law was so strangulation in the context of domestic violence was a misdemeanor. Now, as of January 1st, it's a felony to strangle your partner, ex-partner, family member. And they've added, in addition to that, adding pressure to the chest in the law. So if you, that could be strangulation if there's pressure put on the chest. They've changed the law to make the law in line with the lethality of strangulation and domestic violence.
Right, and so as far as domestic violence, does it only occur with, or does it only relate to acts within the home?
No, it's current and ex-partners, intimate partners, family members as well. So strangling your child, it would be a felony strangulation.
Okay, but it doesn't cover, I guess, other acts of strangulation.
No, I mean, if you're unrelated and you're having a fight in a bar, that's something entirely different.
Okay, and Commissioner Fischer, you testified about this law and advocated for its passage last year. Why is this law so important to you?
As a Clackamas County Commissioner, preventing domestic violence has been a major priority for Clackamas County. So when this bill came up, it was only fitting that I would take the lead on testifying and advocating in Salem. When I was a young attorney, I had a client that came to me wanting to uphold a restraining order. There was a history of strangulation, of choking, of serious control, very difficult domestic violence. We took that case. The ex-husband contested the restraining order, upholding the restraining order, and we went to trial. And I'll never forget, after put on the case with people, the therapist, witnesses that had seen actual marks on her neck, and we presented the case to the judge. My client had testified. And I'll never forget the judge saying, when she upheld the restraining order, not for the credibility of the victim, but because of the preponderance of the evidence, I'm upholding this restraining order. Shortly thereafter, the ex-husband kidnapped, took the mother, and was on his way to California. That restraining order was in place so that when they stopped at a gas station, he could be immediately arrested. He is serving a 29-year sentence now in California. But it just really brought home how victims aren't believed, how the law did not support them at the time. If he could have been held accountable for the strangulation that he did in the course of his violence to her, it may never have escalated to the point that it did. And the law just had a serious hole in it.
Yeah.
I think people need to be held accountable for crimes where there is, where it's so violent, so violent. I'm all about prevention and making sure that our prisons don't have people that don't need to be there, but for people that strangle, they need to be held accountable, and prison is often appropriate.
Yeah, this is a big fix to the law.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Sarah, so Commissioner Fischer has touched on it a little bit, but why else? Let's get into some of the specifics, maybe medically, on why strangulation is so dangerous.
So strangulation is when external pressure is put on the neck. And in people's necks, you have veins and arteries in the outside of your neck right here that are very vulnerable. When someone puts pressure on your neck, they cut off the blood flow to your brain. So your brain uses about 20% of the oxygen your whole body uses. So the second that blood flow changes, your brain starts to shut down. So it's dangerous because very quickly your brain shuts down, and within seconds you will pass out. Within a minute or two you will die if the pressure is not released. And it also takes incredibly little pressure to close someone's arteries. So it takes less pressure than it does to open a soda can.
Wow.
to occlude, which means to close or lessen the pressure or lessen the blood flow in someone's arteries.
Wow, that's barely any
Yeah,
pressure at all.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And most people don't know that. They think that strangulation is about cutting off oxygen, when really it's about cutting off blood flow.
Mhm.
You can actually die from strangulation and still be able to breathe,
Yeah.
because your trachea is protected,
Yeah.
but your veins and arteries are not protected.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. And as Commissioner Fischer so eloquently put a second ago, she really described why the change is needed in a specific case. What are some general trends? Or why is the change needed overall? With what we see with victims.
Because we know that strangulation is dangerous for the victim. It has short and long-term effects physically for them, as well as emotional and psychological effects. What we also know is that strangulation has not been in line with the severity of the crime. So a misdemeanor crime, but with a lethal form of domestic violence that needed to come needed to come together.
Mhm.
And that's why the change in law was so much needed. And what we also know is there's a correlation between strangulation and other crimes. So
Mhm.
men who strangle
Right.
are the men who shoot police officers.
Okay.
Reserve Officer Robert Lipke was killed in 2013, an Oregon City officer.
Right.
The man who killed him had strangled his girlfriend an hour before.
Wow.
We also know that men who strangle are the men that do mass murders. So the Pulse nightclub shooting, that
Mhm.
man had multiple victims
Mhm.
where he had strangled them. So
Right.
it's not just, it's about the victim, but it's also about strangulation affects the victim, but it affects the entire community as well.
Right,
It
and there's that-
impacts our officers.
Right, and there's that absolutely clear correlation
Yes,
that people who do
absolutely,
this,
yeah.
there's a
Yeah.
reason to put them away. Commissioner Fischer, what is your hope that comes out of the new law? So now it's January 1st, or it was a week ago, and now the law's enacted. So what do you hope really is the impact is?
So my hope always is that we prevent crime in the first place. Part of doing that successfully is by creating awareness. When you think about strangulation, putting your hands around someone's neck and slowly seeing the life leave someone,
Mm.
that's incredible. And that is something that is different than other crimes. And so really explaining to our community that this is a very serious crime, that Oregon takes this seriously, that if you are going to commit the crime of strangulation, then you may go to prison. And that is something that we have to be really strong about, because certain crimes people need to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
And this is one of those. So, hoping that it creates awareness, that victims will come forward, that perpetrators will not commit the crime of strangulation, that families can get the support that they need, and that we can really help people create better lives for themselves if they're in a situation of domestic violence.
Sure. I mean, now I would imagine the victims of it are going to be a lot happier that it's being recognized for being the violation and the terrible act that it is by the law a little bit better. By raising it. Yeah. And so Sarah, you've been coordinating the county's efforts in preparing for the change.
Yeah.
And so what have we done? What's been done at the county level, and what's going to happen over the next couple of months?
Okay, so since last year, about this time, we have trained upwards of 15 professionals in strangulation. We all went to a week-long training in San Diego. When we came back, we formed the Strangulation Response Initiative. We're meeting every month, working on our response, improving our identification and response and prosecution of strangulation in our community. So we've developed protocols that the police chiefs will be signing and other partners will be signing here next month. And we're going to continue training. We've done a lot of training of police officers, which of course they are on the scene first. We need them to be able to ask the right questions and ask those questions consistently, and charge. And we need strangulation to be charged when there's strangulation, so that it can be prosecuted. So we can tag these guys as the scariest amongst the abusers.
Yeah.
And so we'll be doing a lot more work this year on training, and continue to watch how the response rolls out,
Okay.
and looking at whether there's gaps and needs for improvement.
And you mentioned the police chiefs for the local forces. Is that all the cities in the county
Yes.
that have the
Yes.
police forces?
Yes.
Great.
Mhm.
Okay. And Sarah, you are situated in a Safe Place Family Justice Center, which you have on the screen up here. Can you tell us a little bit about exactly what that is for people who might not know about that
Sure.
resource?
Sure, so a Safe Place Family Justice Center has been in Clackamas County since 2013. They just had their 5-year anniversary. It's a co-housed location where different representatives from different organizations that work with victims are all in one place. It's a one-stop shop building. And so there's prosecutors and restraining orders can be gotten there. They have video court, which is really amazing. So victim can get a restraining order and never have to go into the courthouse. They can get the restraining order in the Family Justice Center. They have support groups. They have counseling. They have Department of Human Services. So anyone that works with domestic violence is in that building.
Mm-hmm.
So a victim can come there, get all the services they need without ever leaving the building. So
Yeah.
it's less traumatizing. It's trauma-informed for them not to be wandering all over the community looking for services.
Yeah, no, it's a great service. And Commissioner Fischer, I've heard over the years many commissioners, including yourself, talk about just how valuable resource that the center is. Why is it so important for our society to have a Safe Place Family Justice Center here?
Well, I think number one, it's a trauma-informed environment. So I can speak personally about sending clients to the Family Justice Center to get safety plans, and those are very unique to the situation, and they're complex, because to keep someone safe who is fleeing a relationship that has had a cycle of domestic violence for sometimes years and years, it's very, very delicate. So having the expertise that can give the correct information is absolutely critical, because creating safety for people is one of our utmost priorities. So our Family Justice Center last year had 5,500 visits.
Wow.
I spoke earlier about a protective order, restraining order.
Mm-hmm.
At our Safe Place, there were 340 protective orders that were issued.
Just last year.
Just last year.
Mhm.
And when you go to the Family Justice Center, a victim can go there. They actually have video conference rooms where they can ask for the restraining order in a safe place. They don't have to go to the intimidating courthouse. They can be video conferenced in. They can have their victim's advocate with them. It is much less stressful, much less intimidating. Making the decision to leave is hard enough.
Yeah.
But having the support of people that understand and that care is absolutely critical. And that's how we create safety in our community.
Excellent. Well, if you're interested in finding out more about a Safe Place Family Justice Center, the website is asafeplacefjc.org. I'd like to thank again Clackamas County Commissioner Sonia Fischer and Clackamas County Domestic Violence Systems Coordinator Sarah Van Dyke for joining us today. Again, this is this is the first in a series of videos we'll be doing about strangulation now in the act of domestic violence becoming a felony. So, for Clackamas County, thanks very much.
Thanks.